question for Jan. What aspects of Gravenberch's game do you think are typical of the Ajax school? And of course, as a man who's a graduate of that, do you see stuff that has come straight from that? Or is that even a thing anymore, that there are sort of set philosophies and values that players get from Ajax going back to the era where you were there with Cruyff?
It's probably not as evident anymore than what it used to be. I always used to. So 20 years ago, you would see a player, regardless of what shirt he wore, and you go, I wonder whether he's been an Ajax in because of some qualities. So you can still see Ryan Gravenberch, this thing about being able to take the ball on the half turn, that ability to accelerate away, being aware of space. That's the one thing I like about Ryan Gravenberch, is that he's aware of space. He's aware where to move into, with or without the ball. He is superb. I mean, it's one thing missing when we played Everton. I thought Everton did really well in terms of closing down those lanes for him, either his passing lanes or where he wanted to run into. I thought Everton did that really well and stopped him playing, isn't it? But yeah, it's that ability to be equally strong on your right, on your left, being able to receive the ball in tight spaces, and then have that ability to. I remember when I saw Ross Barkley for the first time at Everton, and I thought, wow, incredible ability to turn away from trouble. And then the more sort of Ross Barkley, I thought, wow, unbelievable ability to turn away from trouble and then to turn back into trouble. That was like, what? So he's perfectly turning away from trouble. Then the next thing, he's back into. So Ryan Gravenberch has this ability to turn on trouble and stay out of trouble. How many times we've seen that this season, Trevor, isn't it? There's things happening. The ball gets played into him. He uses the pace of the pass, let it run through, bang. It's a totally different game, isn't it? And I still think that for my time, always encouraged, at Ajax to play forward, to find a space, and find a space to step into, find a space to pass into, isn't it? And I see that with Ryan Gravenberch. The thing with Ajax is that you look at the players and you go, he's been through. That doesn't mean that they're all top-class players, does it? But they are generally well-educated.
That time when you were doing your stint at Ajax, and to be fair, the squad was amazing. And like I said, you've told us before, it was the tail end of Cruyff's career, and he was still amazing. And you were coming over to Liverpool, and you had a similar experience then, obviously, with Kenny at the tail end of his career, and still a high-class performer. It strikes me that it must have been kind of shockingly similar, and that you couldn't have come from a better place to Liverpool, because famously Liverpool's training was all about ball work. And whether or not we got to see the hard yards you put in, or we got to hear about them, that's a whole different thing. But just a quick word on that, like, it must have been like hand in glove coming from Ajax to Liverpool, the kind of perfect transition for you.
And I think that was the reason that Liverpool decided to give me a contract, offer me a contract, because, and for the people who don't know, I came by at a 10-day trial. And in those 10 days trial, I played in a pre-season friendly, but generally it was training, wasn't it? And once I saw what Liverpool did in training, I thought, well, I can do this. I'm used to this. I'm comfortable. I'm technically possibly above average at that time, so I'll be okay with stuff that they do. All they now got to make a decision is whether I'm good enough. But I knew that the training wouldn't be a challenge for me. Whereas even during the 80s or even in the early 90s, I saw Liverpool sign players that either you recognised within a couple of days training that the training would be challenging for, or even themselves went, what? I mean, I can't do this. This is not how I play football. Perfect example being Paul Stewart. When we signed him in the early 90s, and Paul went, I can't do this. I don't know what to do. So what I'm suggesting is that if Paul Stewart would have gone to Liverpool for the 10-day trial, they would have gone, no, thank you. But I knew that when I went, I'd be okay with this because I knew I could play. It was just whether we could convince Liverpool that I was good enough,
I think you did that, mate. I think we can safely say you did that.